let's break down paper 1, shall we? This is for our paper 1 of our 9093. And paper 1 is about reading, paper 2 is about writing. Now, obviously, there are components of writing in paper 1 because we've got our directed response, which is a writing response. But the goal here is not necessarily the writing, because you see, that's for 10 marks, whereas the analysis is for 15 marks. And then paper question 2 is also for 25 marks. So it's really just 10 out of the 50 marks. So it's 20% of the paper is for writing, but it is not just for writing, it is for an understanding of the elements of form, language, and structure, and how we use these to achieve a specific purpose. And that's really what we're trying to figure out in this paper. How do we use the different elements, whether they be semantic elements, pragmatic, different linguistic elements? How do we use these to create something beautiful? And our focus here is, how does the writer, whether that writer is you or whoever, how do they use language to create something? And how do they use it to achieve their purpose? So if we look at question 1 here, it says, read the following text, which is an article about happy and healthy aging. It was published in a British newspaper. So it tells you what to do, read the text. So you're going to read the text. Now, I just want to bring your attention here to 2 hours and 15 minutes. So you've got about 1,500 words of writing in this exam. And you, at this point in your life, should be reading about 300 words per minute. Maybe 250 if you have ADHD or dyslexia or something that hinders your reading speed. It might be a little bit longer. You might read maybe 150 words a minute. So that does really play against you. And that is why you can apply for exemptions, and you can apply for accommodations to be made so that you can have extra time. So if you do want to make those accommodations, we have to build up a portfolio of evidence of why you need that. You will need to go see an educational psychologist and all kinds of things. So if you do need extra time, you feel that it's actually something you need, then start early. Approach me like a year before. Let's figure something out. Then, so you've got 2 hours and 15 minutes. So there's 15 minutes. You've got 1,500 words. So if we're reading 300 words a minute, then you can read it about 3 times, all the text in the thing. And then the 2 hours, you should take about an hour for question 1 and an hour for question 2. So that's how you're going to manage your time and figure that out. Now you've got to use 150 to 200 words. So that really isn't a lot of writing. That's 15 to 20 lines, depending on how much you write. Maybe it might, how big you write. And hopefully in the future, they're going to introduce more typing exams, because I know that a lot of people do struggle still today. Even in my time, people struggled, although my time wasn't very long ago, but people struggled with handwriting. And so if you can apply for a concession, which an accommodation to allow for typing, but hopefully they're going to make it a standard option. Pearson is working towards that currently. Now, what we're told here is you disagree with... Oh, okay, so if we've got this is the article about happy and healthy aging. So it tells us what it's about, so it tells us the topic, and it is published in a British newspaper. So it tells us where it was published. And we need to disagree with some points in the article. They tell us a stance we need to take, and we need to write a response to the editor in the form of an email. So we are writing an email, so we should probably include a subject line as well. Expressing your opinions, use 150 to 200 words. So our goal is to express our opinions, but they don't tell us to what end. We want to express our opinions, but why? What is the point of expressing our opinions? We could want to express our opinions just so that they're stated, or we might want to express our opinions so that um, we can inform people. We might want to persuade people. So I feel like we have a bit of leeway there. And then we need to use 150 to 200 words. In this, our response should be that long. Now, if we take this, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of how we would do this specific question, but the goal here, what you're wanting to do here, is you're wanting to create something that you can later analyze, because it says compare your email with the article and the email, analyzing form, structure, and language. So here, please note, we are not analyzing the points. We are analyzing form, structure, and language. So the article has one purpose, the email has another purpose. The article has one form, the email has another form. However, you might use similar language in both, because on a basic level, the one thing that is almost definitely going to be similar is your lexical fields, your semantic fields. And so you're going to use similar words because you're talking about a similar topic. So we are talking about health and aging, and being happy while aging. That is definitely we're going to use words like that. We're going to use words related to aging and things like that. And so we're talking about our similarities, our differences, but we're not, understand that we are analyzing here. We're not talking about the difference in their argument. We are analyzing the language, form, and structure, the form, structure, and language. Now, previously, this used to be style and structure. I can't fully remember now. I used to remember because I used to teach it, but uh, um, like it is quite a broad topic. And if you look at the rubric, the mark scheme, you'll see that they're wanting you to really figure out how the audience is being impacted by what's being said. So do we really have to wait until we are 28 to find peak happiness? Here is your article. Okay, so I would personally start by reading the questions, reading the article, and as I'm reading the article, I'm going to highlight key points that I can analyze later on in one color. And then I'm going to, in another color, I'm going to highlight some key points that I'd like to actually talk about in my question A. This is just what works for me. It might not work for you, but do whatever works for you as long as it is chaotic and you're having fun. Okay? So from there, we move on to question 2, which is like literally my favorite part. Okay, paper 4 might be my favorite. I'm not sure. Paper 4 is very overwhelming for me though, because I get so into it. So section B is your text analysis, and here you've got question 2, and you're going to read the following text, which is an extract from a travelogue describing the film of a travel documentary called Around the World in 80 Days. So it tells you what type of text it is. It is an extract from a travelogue. Okay, now you might actually not even know what a travelogue is when you get to this. You should probably. It's helpful to know, but it's a log of traveling. And so you can expect to find certain elements of language being used, elements of form. You can expect it to look a certain way because it's describing the filming of a travel documentary called Around the World in 80 Days. Okay? So just another thing that I'd like to note here, it's Around the World in 80 Days. Some of us might know Around the World in 80 Days from, I think there was a Jackie Chan movie about it when I was like a kid. Can't remember exactly, but Around the World in 80 Days is a fictional story, or I'm not sure if it's based on a real story, but there are movies that have been made on it and things like that. And so that also is something that you can explore. I like to just point out that you can explore literally anything. Now, analyze the text focusing on form, structure, and language. Now, what does that mean? I was speaking to some tutors and they have no clue. I've been marking this for quite a while, and I'm very familiar with what the requirements are. But if I look at this question, the question itself is quite vague because you have to know what they're actually asking for. And if I say, write an essay about the moon, you could literally say anything, and it could be super vague or it can be super specific. Now, if I say analyze the text focusing on form, structure, and language, first thing I need to do is I need to figure out what is the main thing I'm going to analyze. Okay? Am I going to analyze the way that they that the structure, form, and language work together to bring forth I don't know if this would be relevant for this one, to bring forth a deeper understanding of the concepts, or is it meant to entertain? And so I look at how the pragmatic elements are used to actually entertain. And so if I'm looking at the pragmatic elements, obviously I'm going to look at the other language elements as well, because all of them work together. It's like a painting. If I take a painting, I'm not just taking a painting and saying, here is a painting. I might look at the blue on the painting, but I don't have to say the color blue. Okay? And I wouldn't actually say the blue. Being an artist, I would talk about the brilliant blue or the ultramarine blue. And all of those have different connections that are formed in my brain, because an ultramarine blue is something I associate more with depth and sadness, whereas a brilliant blue seems quite superficial to me in the way that I use it. And then a cerulean, which is actually my favorite blue to use. I use cerulean in every single painting. A cerulean is going to be used for it's the color I use in my skies, but it's also I add elements of it to different parts of the painting, and I usually use cerulean to bring balance and harmony to an artwork. And so we have different purposes of the different colors, and so just saying the color is too broad, it's too vague. And also, if I have a painting, I'm trying to explore something specific through that painting as the artist, but also after I have handed that artwork over to the world is going to interpret that artwork in a way that makes sense to them. And so they're continuing in the creation of it, in their interpretation and their elaboration of what I might mean, but at the end of the day, I have used those elements of art to create something specific, and it achieves some purpose. And I can even explore how the writer meant it in this way, but to someone with this context, it might mean something different. And so, depending on the contextual background, there are words that were appropriate 100 years ago that are not appropriate now, or that mean totally different things. And there I can also explore how this contextual change has impacted how people would interpret this and how different contexts would interpret this word. And so there I can explore who my audience is and how this is for a specific audience, and it's quite directed at that audience. And so I'm going to write an essay. My essay, I don't like to give a specific word count, but I'm going to say, please don't be under like 500-600 words. Not because you have to aim for some word count, but because you kind of need to know how much is expected of you. And that's not 600 rubbish words. I don't want you to use words that are just going to fill space. I want you to use words because you should get to the end and say, I do not have enough space to say everything I need to say. I want to say more. Okay. That is where you need to be. And so you're not going to separate it. You can, but it's very seldom done well. You're not going to separate it in section on form, section on structure, section on language. All of these elements work together to achieve a purpose, which is a purpose that is directed at a specific audience. Or even if it's a reflective type essay, it is not just for the audience, but also for the writer. And so how they're processing their world through this. And so this is for 25 marks. And so make sure that you are reading attentively and actually working through it.